Welcome to Jets Rewind. This is Marty Shupak. I'm in Valley Cottage, New York, and I'm joined by Ralph Schrager in Belmont, Mass. I think last week, Ralph, I said Belmont, New York. And Ray Clifford will be joining us, hopefully momentarily. Ralph, he may be scouting the Buckeyes, getting ready for their spring game in a couple of months.
Yeah, I thought he was watching the Robert Saleh press conference for the fourth time.
Yeah. So today was a pretty big day. Ray was going to report on the press conference. But before we do that, Ralph, and you're going to hold on.
Can I just say one thing about that press conference? I'll let Ray do all of the
yeah.
But when Rob Saleh said his philosophy is all gas and no break, I thought he was describing my eating habits, actually.
Ray, we're up here, Ray. Let me see. Ray's coming on for a minute. Yeah, okay. Ralph, we're going to get to we're on the air, Ray. We're going to get to
the trivia question, right?
Trivia question. Are you with us, Ray?
I'm with you.
You're not against us. Last week you were against us. So this week you're with us.
Here's the trivia question.
Meadowlark Lemon is the answer.
They will call me. Go ahead, Ralph.
Okay, with this trivia question, the answer to this might change in a few months. When was the last time, and who was the last wide receiver the Jets picked in the first round?
Last wide receiver they picked in the first round.
Do I hear an echo here? Yeah. You know this one, right, Marty?
I can't think it was. Was it?
You know what? This is finally we got him on one.
Was it the guy from Miami? Just give me that hint.
Yeah, it was. Yeah. All right. So you answered immediately. All right. So I'm going to come up with another question right now.
Okay. All right. Here we go. Today was a big day for the Jets. They introduced Robert Saleh, and also a bunch of names came out that he hired, including defensive coordinator. I caught just a little bit on radio. Ralph saw some of it, but Ray, I had asked Ray to really delve deep into it. Ray, could you give us a little report on what you saw, what you liked, what you disliked, and everything else?
I liked pretty much everything he had to say because of the way he handled it. He didn't go out there like Rex being real, braggadocio, and he wasn't all crazy eye like Gase, so that was a plus. I didn't like listening to Christopher Johnson. He couldn't have sounded mousier with that voice of his, but and he said it's still all things go through him, although he made it sound like, he'd be okay with whatever Joe Douglas and Saleh come up with. I liked his catchphrase, all gas, no brakes, which basically said not that you're just going, all out on the field. It meant from the, basically start of the day, you're engaged in what they're trying to do. And by the end of the day, you should be better than you were at the start of the day. He spoke well of Sam, but there was no
steady. Okay, go ahead. He spoke well of Sam. He didn't commit. I heard that, which is what we thought, right?
Yeah,
right?
He wouldn't commit, and they shouldn't. I mean, they gotta do their due diligence on that and maybe work them out or kind of go over it with them.
Ray, one thing I want to ask that I heard part of it. He did say that Saleh is going to report to Joe Douglas, unlike how it was before.
To him.
Yeah, and I don't think it's a huge deal. A lot of people do, but I know the question was asked. I think it might have been by Connor Hughes. So it looks like slowly they gave Joe Douglas some more power. Did you get that impression, Ray?
I got the impression, like we've said before, that when it comes to decisions on personnel and things like that it will go, basically it'll be a collaboration with Joe and Saleh, and that Christopher Johnson is probably going to sign off on whatever, but it's still got to go to him for actually it'll be Woody. Even Christopher Johnson at one point said Woody's due back any time now, and Woody will be the principal owner, that Christopher Johnson will be the vice principal owner. So Woody's due back, I guess. I guess there's a process with the NFL, but he was due back on a plane today. So,
Ray, let me ask you this. Is there anything that you thought was a negative? Then I want to get Ralph's opinion about Robert Saleh, the way he presented himself. I know it was in Zoom.
No, I don't think he did anything negative that would hurt. I think he just gave an outline. It was kind of how did he get here? How did the process go? What are his feelings about the team? What was his feelings with Sam? All the usual stuff. And I thought he, pretty much deflected where he needed to and just said the right thing. He didn't go overboard. The only thing I would have taken as a negative if he got out there and, basically said, we're going to be winning the Super Bowl in a year or two. He said it's a process. We're going to, our goal is to win championships. And that's how he kept it. And he kept it,
And he said it in a plural, I heard, not just championship.
Yeah, he said
championships.
We're here to win championships.
Okay.
We're going to hold him to that too.
Yeah. All right, Ralph, let's have your reaction. You saw
the only negative I find annoying of these Zoom press conferences is I don't think some of these writers listen to the other questions because they ask the same damn question 20 minutes later. It drives me crazy. I just fast forward it. Another significant thing he said is that his defensive coordinator was going to call the plays, which is good.
I was going to mention that too, yeah.
I think reporting to Joe Douglas matters. I think the other model is bad, and it's part of the classic Jet dysfunctionality. So I think it helps, definitely. Yeah.
I thought he sounded good. I thought at the beginning he was a little nervous, which I think is fairly normal too. But on the whole, I liked what he heard. And I just want to go over some of the assistant coaches that he named. Okay, Ray, anything else you want to add?
No, I was going to say he had said he won't be making the play calls. He named his defensive coordinator. And I didn't realize that one thing that I think is a positive he did mention, which I didn't realize, was that Mike LaFleur, who's going to be the offensive coordinator, has been with Kyle Shanahan for 8 years. So he should be pretty comfortable running the same style offense that Shanahan did. It's not just like he just got there a year or two ago. 8 years, he should be pretty much able to, he would probably know just what Shanahan would have called too. So I like that. I think if you're going to run that kind of offense, you need somebody who's been in it a while. And so that's good.
Yeah, and I heard him when they asked him about Sam Darnold, and then later on WFAN, he was on the show, and I heard him again. And look, he has to sidestep the question.
Yeah,
he doesn't want to box himself into the New York press if all of a sudden over the weekend they get the Deshaun Watson. So he handled it right. The Jets announced today, and it was Robert Saleh announced that Jeff Ulbrich will be the defensive coordinator. And let me just go through other names. They also announced that Aaron Whitecotton, defensive line, Nate Ollie, assistant offensive line coach, Chip Vaughn, defensive assistant, Rick Manning Jr., defensive assistant, Hayes Puller, defensive assistant. Ralph, it sounds like these quality controls. They're going to have
Rick Manning. Didn't he used to play for the Indians, Ray?
Yeah. They're going to have to.
It's a nice little center fielder, I guess.
These guys are going to have to go. Defensive assistants, you go to Starbucks instead of Dunkin' Donuts. But anyway, just so you know, Jeff Ulbrich, and I guess he was known, he has that stunning goatee. He's was drafted at a 3rd round by the 49ers out of Hawaii. And he was a special assistant for a couple of years with the Seahawks. Then he was with actually UCLA for a year as their linebackers coach. And then the Falcons hired him as the linebackers coach. And he's been there for a while. And in this past year, when the Falcons got rid of their coach and their defensive coordinator moved to head coach, he became the defensive coordinator. And if you guys remember, and I think the head coach was Raheem Morris. Is that the guy?
Yeah.
Yeah, if you remember, the last Well, actually, since they fired that coach, the team and the defense was playing a lot better than they were the first half of the year.
Yeah, they won their first game the week he took over. They beat Minnesota. I don't know if you remember.
Yeah.
No, obviously Atlanta, relatively speaking,
Yeah.
their defense did get better than it was. Obviously, in absolute terms, wasn't that good this year, but so it's a good sign. It's nice that he's had some experience already at the defensive coordinator.
Yeah. So that's it. And the Robert Saleh era begins. He's going to go through a honeymoon period. He sounded very aggressive when he goes for it at 4th and 1 from their own 30 against the Patriots. And then they don't make it. He's going to hear it from the press and the fans. I mean, he sounded like he's going to be aggressive. But I think we're all happy so far from what we see. I want to ask Ray, and you too, Ralph, you could chime in. With all these assistant coaches, and next year the Jets are going to have an incredibly young team, would it behoove the Jets to have some sort of older coach, maybe a Marvin Lewis as a special assistant head coach, just to have somebody that's been through the ropes that could bounce things off? Ray, your thoughts?
I mean, he's been the coach long enough. I think he knows how they handle. I think he's got the kind of personality. He doesn't need or want somebody looking over his shoulder. I think he feels like he can communicate with the players fine. And I think, and from what, you hear about the players talking about him before he got here, that, they feel the same about him. So I don't think he's going to have a problem. I wouldn't do that.
Ralph, your thoughts?
No, I wouldn't do it either, and I don't think he needs it. I said last week, if they chose someone like Marvin Lewis as their defensive coordinator, he could also help them as a mentor. But since they're going with the younger guys, I think it'd be like a bench coach or something. I don't see that as.
Okay, let's move on now. All the news this week was about Deshaun Watson, who claims he wants out of Houston. He was spotted at a New Jersey Nets game where
it's actually the Brooklyn Nets.
Brooklyn Nets. Yeah. Brooklyn
they just
Nets.
Moved.
Ralph, it's always going to be New Jersey Nets and San Diego Chargers.
No, to me, it's always the Long Island Nets from Uniondale.
Right.
I used to go to their games for $2 and watch Julius Erving.
Yeah, and his pal that was traded from the Houston Rockets is now on the Nets, the Brooklyn Nets. So, of course, they have a headline in the back of the Post. And then all these scenarios about trading for him, that they have to do it, give up whatever it takes. And Ralph, I got to tell you, you want to see our friend Ray Clifford depressed. When he looks at some of these trades and he sees all they want to give up, he goes into a deep depression. And I could just tell he's got like a bottle of Cutty Sark in front of him saying, why they doing it again? Why they doing it again?
Why don't you just say Mad Dog 2020?
Ralph, Ray, he doesn't want them to give any of these draft picks that the Jets have. He was like in complete depression. I guess it was yesterday, right, Ray?
Yeah, well, the last 2 days listening to all these clowns talk about it. But I'll say this. Yeah, I still am. If they do it, I'll be even more pissed. But it was the theoretical trade that they were coming up with that was killing me. Give away all our first rounders for the next 2 years, and then another one, I'd give away 3 of them. Look, if it was something that made sense, I wouldn't be against it. But we can fill so many holes if we just hang on to our draft picks and either hang on to Sam or trade Sam and get even more draft picks. We could fill, 8 or 10 holes on this team just this year. And then we're on the right track. I just think if they make that trade, they're just setting themselves up to torpedo what they've got, what they just started today.
Ralph, my question to you is this. I really don't know how good Deshaun Watson is. I've been asking everyone. They say I've heard he's a top 5 quarterback. Last year in a lousy team, he had 33 touchdowns, 8 interceptions. Let me ask you this, Ralph, and we're going to get into this in detail. If they were to make an offer and it did not include the second pick in the draft, how do you feel about them getting Deshaun Watson?
I don't think that hypothetical is even possible. The reason that people talk about the Jets being a good place for them is because of that second round pick to begin with. Second pick, unless they're in love with Sam Darnold, which I doubt. You kind of answered your own question, Marty, when you said he had 33 and 7, threw for almost 5,000 yards, and they were 4 and 12. One of my favorite coaches, I'm going to quote him, Barry Trotz. He says that great players can win games, but teams win championships. And it makes no sense at all. The guy's not happy in Houston because they're a terrible team. And if he came here, they'd strip him all the assets, and the Jets would be a terrible team, and he'd have good numbers, but they'd be 5 and 11 or 3 and 13. I don't understand. I don't think the rumors. I don't believe the rumors that he really wants to come here. It doesn't make any sense from so many levels. I'm with Ray. I don't want to torpedo all of these assets. Whether they stick with Darnold or they go with one of the rookie quarterbacks, they still have enough to build a team around them. Deshaun Watson's really good. I mean, there's no question about it. But to give away all those first round picks, you think about it, they got 2 first rounders and a third rounder for Jamal Adams, a safety. What in the world do you think Houston would want for that pick?
They gave up a 4th. Well, let me ask you this. And I just want to quote, and Ray and I mentioned to you, we were listening to Mel Kiper's podcast with Todd McShay. And a good part of it was talking about Sam Darnold. And Mel Kiper, for whatever reason, he still thinks very highly of Sam Darnold. And he said, if the Washington football team, if they're going to take Trey Lance with their first pick, I guess the 16th pick in the draft.
Yeah.
They said if they're going to take him, then Sam Darnold's definitely worth a first rounder. Now I'm going to segue from there saying that if the Jets were to get something pretty good for Sam Darnold, let's say a first, let's say they traded the 2 Seattle first round picks and threw in Denzel Mims, you still wouldn't do it?
Run that by me again.
2 number 1 picks, the Seattle.
Which ones?
Seattle picks.
Yeah.
And Denzel Mims, and figure they're going to get a number 1 for Sam Darnold. Would you still not do it?
I don't think Houston would do it.
I was going to say, do you really think Houston would do that? I don't think they would.
Okay. All right.
Now, the problem with Mel Kiper is he's living in the past. You see, for years, a lot of these, I'm going to use an analogy in college basketball. A lot of these guys, they come out after your freshman year, because the longer you stay in college, the more the warts they can find on you. And that's the problem with Darnold. He's got 3 years worth of warts in the pros, whereas these rookies all look very flashy and they had great college careers. And I don't think that Kiper can equate a third-year quarterback with a rookie coming out with his rating system. It just doesn't make any sense.
All right, Ralph, you said a couple of shows ago, if they traded back with Atlanta, that they should get more than a second and a third.
Definitely.
Okay. All right. There's talk about that if they trade back, they might actually trade back twice. They might trade back to get a second and a third. And I heard they might trade back either 1 or 2 spots, secure another second. And all this, and I agree with Ray, you keep your picks and you leverage the picks you have. You're setting up your team where you have a foundation for years to come. And it's such a foundation. You'll have these picks that I predict Joe Douglas, he could take like some of these extra second round picks, trade out of that round and leverage that to more picks. So the bottom line is, and I was playing the devil's advocate, I would stay where we are. I would try to surround Sam. I was looking at some
Well,
of
you're
the.
saying you would stay where we are, meaning you wouldn't trade back? You would just
Oh, I would
draft
trade
someone
back,
who's-
but I'm saying I wouldn't
Yeah.
trade for Watson. I agree with
Yeah.
Ray, and I agree with you. I would try to get as many assets as I could. If we learned anything from Joe Douglas, it's two things. He's very patient and he does a great job in trading back, accumulating picks. That's number one. And the second thing is, we brought it up. When he was asked what he thought of Justin Fields and when he played against Clemson, he responded, he said, I really thought that Ohio State did a great job winning the line of scrimmage on both sides of the ball.
Well, yeah, and they didn't win it against Alabama, and he looked
Right.
lousy. That's
But
that's football, and yeah, he's a believer in offensive lines, and that does win.
he's on to it. That's why I'm fully confident that that he's going to
Now,
do the right thing. But go ahead.
about your trading back scenario, I'm living up here for 20 years or 30 years, watching Belichick. Every draft, trade back, trade back, trade back. I have no problem with trading back to a point, but at a certain point, I want to get some of those quality late first, second round picks. I don't want to keep going trading back and getting 18 fourth and fifth round picks.
No, I wouldn't. I probably wouldn't go beyond like 6 or 8. How does that sound for you, Ralph?
Yeah, that'd be fine. So that's 2 trade backs, but I still want more than a second and a third for Atlanta's pick.
Ray, what's your thoughts about how far, if they trade back twice, how far should they go?
I don't want to go out of the top 10. Definitely. I'd like to stay, I wouldn't mind staying 8. One thing I would say is, remember the year that, and I know it's stepping back a ways, but you remember the year that Dallas traded Herschel Walker and got all those picks from
Yes.
Minnesota. Dallas was, I think, 3-13 that year, and he turned a lot of those picks. Now he got players too, and we aren't going to as in a good a shape as they are, but they filled holes that lasted them for the better part of a decade. So, accumulating picks makes all the sense in the world. I wouldn't trade back twice unless we stayed in the top 10, because I want to get a top something out of this draft, whether it's a wide receiver, a lineman, or a quarterback. I want the best we can get, and I would say my choice would be lineman or quarterback. It's a very deep draft for receivers. We could go back a ways. They say it's deep for linemen, but I think the best ones are as always right there towards the top, and I'd want one of the ones early if we can get them, if we don't go for a quarterback.
By the way, before we continue, Ray, and we spoke about it, Ralph, you heard Olave is going back to Ohio State.
Yeah.
Which I think is a mistake. Now, with that said, Ray, is who's the other wide receiver? Wilson. He's going back, right?
I don't think I didn't hear anything.
He's young.
I'm guessing he's not able to. I think he's got to do another year at least.
There are wide receivers that'll be there in the mid to late first round. Don't worry about that.
Ralph, there's an interesting scenario that, and I know I don't want this to turn into the Mel Kiper show, but he said if it was him, he would advise Trey Lance to transfer to Ohio State. Have one more year of college. Did you hear that, Ray?
No, but I don't remember that part. But
yeah,
but I mean, that could benefit him in a lot of ways, because first of all, he wouldn't have to sit out a year because he'd be going up to a different level. So it's not the same thing. Secondly, he could really, if he's the real deal, he'd be showing off his talents against much better competition than he's facing there. So, yeah, that to me, I would consider that if I were him, but he's probably looking at, hey, if I'm a mid-first rounder, I'm making a lot of money.
Yeah, exactly. Which is why, Chris Olave would be a late first, early second. I think that's probably his upper limit, considering his, what his physical tools are. Huh?
The incumbent quarterbacks at Ohio State don't have a lot of talent. Don't have a lot of experience, but they're all very highly rated. So it could be another good year for them. I don't know. I haven't seen any of them yet, but all of them were,
Well, I'm sure they'll do fine because their offensive line will dominate most of the teams in the Big Ten. So they'll make it easy for them.
All right, let's get back to the Jets and Robert Saleh. And by the way, Ralph and Ray knows this. The Steelers signed Dwayne Haskins today.
Yeah, I know. So that takes one team out of the market, I guess.
Not
I don't.
necessarily.
Yeah, but
I know it's not definite. That's true.
Yeah.
I realize that.
Okay.
Taking a flyer on him.
Ralph had a question. How many years do we think it'll take Robert Saleh to get to the Jets to 500?
Well, over 500.
Over 500. Ray, why don't you start?
Well, going from right now, before we know what the team looks like, I'll say 2 years.
So you're going to say his second year?
Yeah, his second year.
That's what I say, second year.
Yeah, but I would say so too. You think back to the darkest period in Jet history, which was the Rich Kotite era. They went 3-13, 1-15, and then Parcells took over and they went 9-7. Now that's Parcells, of course.
Right.
And the next year they went to the AFC. The thing about football is your team can fall apart quickly, but you can also turn it around quickly in football. It's interestingly enough, especially if you get a good coach, it makes all the difference.
It does. And I've said it repeatedly about the St. Louis Ram team that were 4-12, and the following year they won the Super Bowl.
Well, you look at the 49ers 2 years ago.
Yes.
They drafted second, 3-13. The next year they're in the Super Bowl.
Yeah,
it's amazing. You would think in football, where there's so many players, so much personnel, that it would take a long time, but it doesn't in this day and age. You have free agency, the draft, and a lot of times it's just incompetent coaches who don't take advantage of talent that's there.
Yeah. By the way, the Jets coaching staff, I looked quickly at the ages. There's a chance that Tom Brady is older than everyone that coaches. You know that?
Yeah, they're all in their early 40s. That's funny.
I think.
What's his name? Mike.
34.
Yeah, he's 34.
Yeah, so they're
he
all.
Could be Brady. He could be Brady's son from his fourth marriage or something.
That's amazing. All right, I'm going to give you guys a couple of scenarios. This one's for both of you. I want Ralph. Not so much really the Jets, but I think it's kind of interesting. First, Ralph's going to answer, then Ray. All right, here we go, Ralph. If Houston went to Jacksonville, said, we'll give you Deshaun Watson for your first pick, what would you do if you were Jacksonville?
Yeah, that scenario to me makes a little more sense than him coming to the Jets. I think it's a more realistic thing. If I was Jacksonville, I'd have to think long and hard about that one because, Deshaun Watson's only 25 years old. I have to give an answer, huh? I would say, yeah, I'd take him.
You take it, even though
just for that one pick. That's it. It's a one-on-one. And because they have a second first-round pick. Right.
And keep in mind, Trevor Lawrence, he's got that rookie contract.
That's true.
Deshaun Watson has that big contract. How about you, Ray?
You mean straight up the first pick for Watson?
Yeah, if you were Jacksonville, what would you do? He never commits, Ralph. You know that? He never really.
I know. I'm going to propose to him later.
Go ahead, Ralph.
I would say that no, I wouldn't. I'd probably go with Lawrence and keep the rebuild going.
Is it because because of the contract, basically?
Well, the contract, and I think we've talked about who I think would be a better fit for him, and I there are teams that are like a quarterback away from challenging for the Super Bowl. I don't think that's Jacksonville either. Although Jacksonville's more talented than the Jets, I think they're still a ways away from that.
I think Massillon is more talented than the Jets.
But could you see a team like Indianapolis trying to get in on it?
Yeah, well, that's a logical place for him to go. I don't think they have enough assets though to get him. That's the problem.
I told you, I think the Dolphins are a good fit for him.
Well, for that to happen, I think Houston would have to like Tua. If they don't like Tua, then
Tua, and they have to probably give him that Tunsil pick back.
Well, Ralph, somebody else would have to like Tua. They don't have to trade Tua to Houston. They would have to.
That's true. That's true.
Somebody would have to like him. So, and it could be the Alabama's coach best friend up I-95. We don't know that. All right, we're moving along, guy. This show is really bouncing, going fast. So, I got a quick trivia question for Ray. Everyone knows Ray's a Buckeye. He takes a lot of pride in his Ohio State Buckeyes. He's a transplanted New Yorker who just.
Ray, have you ever actually seen a Buckeye tree?
I've seen Buckeyes. Necklaces out of them.
Can you eat those things? Can you eat them?
I don't think you can. I think they're poisonous.
Yeah, so do I.
All right, Ralph.
Look pretty cool.
Let's move on. This is specifically for Ray. And then I have a question for both of you. I have something for Ralph later too. Ray,
I hope it's a gift card.
The Jets have one player from Ohio State right now in the roster, Pat Eiflin. Okay. Besides Pat Eiflin, actually, there's another player in the roster that went to a college in Ohio. Could you name that player?
Ohio. Was it Jameson?
Must have been Oberlin. They have a good team.
No.
You would be shocked at how many schools here.
I know that. Well, they got Miami of Ohio,
Ohio
Kent State,
University.
Kent State, Ohio University.
I'll give it to you.
Bowling Green, Kent State, Ohio University. Mount Union's like a killer in Division
No.
III.
Marietta, they got a really good.
Terrell Basham went to Ohio University.
I didn't know.
Oh,
He's from Virginia. He went there. He played for the Ohio Bobcats from 2013 to 16. Bobcats, yeah. As a senior, he was the Mid-America Conference Defensive Player of the Year. He had 11 and a half sacks.
you know, I think they're going to get something out of him. This
I
new
do too.
regime.
No, it's funny, Rob. I was going to say that's the type of player this staff
Yeah.
and Saleh is going to get something out of. I could just
Although if they go 4-3 though, is he big enough to play defensive end?
he could be a good
Yeah.
rotational player. I agree.
Yeah.
With him. I think he's going to improve. Just so you know, Basham had 152 tackles and 29 and a half sacks in his career. Quickly, here's another trivia for both of you. You might have heard it already. Okay. There are 5 Super Bowl winning quarterbacks and U.S. presidents that went to the same college.
That
5 of them.
one college you're talking about?
No, I'll give you there's a Super Bowl winning quarterback went to a college, and then also one president went to the same college. I'll give you one of them.
Oh, you're talking about 5 different colleges.
Yeah.
Oh man, this is something I got to think about, huh?
Delaware, Joe Flacco, and Joe Biden. You're not going to get all of them, but Ralph, you've got to get at least 2 of them, and so do you, Ray. And Ralph, you should get 3 of them. Think about that. We'll come back to that.
Yeah.
Okay, because we have Ralph's trivia question. Now, Ralph had a question about New York sports. 3 years from now, list in order best to worst teams, the Jets, Mets, and Knicks. Okay. I'll go first. I'm going to say it's going to be the Mets, Jets, and Knicks.
It's Jets and Knicks. Yeah, I go with that too. You know why? Because in order of ownership,
Exactly.
best, more medium, and worst.
Right.
We're in agreement.
Also, I got to tell you, Ralph, what's his name? Who's the guy I like? Robinson, the center?
Yeah, Mitchell Robinson.
That's right. I got to tell you, I mean, it's just, I haven't seen one part of his game improve. He's the same player. He's like, you know what? He's like the Sam Darnold of the New York Knicks.
Maybe we can throw him in for Watson.
Ralph, while we're talking about that, if you had a choice, you could only keep one. You ready? Here we go.
Uh-huh.
It's either Bryce Hall with the Jets or Emmanuel Quigley of the Knicks. You can't have both. Who would you keep?
Definitely quickly.
So would I.
I answered that very quickly.
Okay. All right. We have to get to Ralph's trivia, but any thoughts on that president and Super Bowl quarterback?
Geez, I don't know. I'm thinking Stanford. Is that one of them?
Right. John Elway and Herbert Hoover.
And
College.
and also Jim Plunkett went there. Okay. I guess nobody Yale, Harvard. We
There's
had
one
any?
I'd be very disappointed in you, Ralph. Just Ray. Just
I mean, I'm sure I'd get them all if you gave me about a week. But
all right. I'll tell you. Ready? I'll give you the college and tell me the presidents. Naval Academy.
Oh yeah, Jimmy Carter and
Raja
Raja Starbuck.
Here's one.
Starbuck.
Michigan.
Oh yeah, Gerald Ford, and I can't remember the guy who comes from Michigan who won.
Tom Brady. This one you wouldn't get. Ray, this is for you. Miami University of Ohio. Ben Roethlisberger and Benjamin Harrison.
Nice. I would have gotten the Ben Roethlisberger.
Where did is there any more?
That's all I got. That's all.
Oh, that's all you got.
It's a good
Jeez.
question, though. You know, I like that question. All right, Ralph.
That is a good question. Did
Repeat
you come up
your-
with that or that? Yeah.
Repeat your question. I know the play. I always get him mixed up with the guy they.
The last wide receiver that the Jets picked in the first round. You said it's the guy from Miami. Miami. Santana Moss in the year 2001. So 20 years later. And how much time we have a few minutes left. So the second part to that question is, how many first round picks have the Jets used on wide receivers in their history, and can you name them? You got one. There are a few
we
more.
know Keyshawn, there was one.
Right, that's two.
Lamb Jones.
Three.
Lamb Jones. What about let's see.
There's another one, huh?
Devin
Actually, there's two more. One of them, I it's so funny that we don't think of this guy because he's the best of all of them.
No, we aren't talking.
Oh, I know who it is. Altoon.
Yeah, Altoon.
He was my favorite.
No tight ends, wide receivers only, right?
Right. It's a wide
Kyle Brady in there
because they picked a ton of tight ends and most of them stunk.
I know Wesley Walker went in the second round.
He did.
So did Devin Smith, didn't he?
Yeah.
Second round.
And so did Stephen Hill. Stephen Hill and Christian Hackenberg. I think they would have made a good combination.
Jerome Barkham.
You got it.
Was it right? He ended up a tight end, but I know he started.
But he came in as a wide receiver. Then they flipped him and Richard Castor, which made sense because he was so much faster.
Ralph, that's a great question, by the way. That's really good.
Well, it's interesting though. Their last wide receiver first round 20 years ago, their last running back 30 years ago. So you can see they don't put much stock in skill positions.
No.
But I think that streak might get broken this year.
I think it might. And if they accumulate picks, I have no problem with it. But again, the guy I love, Jet fans are going gaga over DeVonta Smith, and a lot of those fans don't want them to trade back. They want to take him with the second pick.
Nah, I don't see that happening. Not with Joe Douglas. He's a lineman guy.
And
I've seen mock drafts where they've actually a couple of them have said Waddle will go before him.
I don't
Waddle
think that's
really
gonna
was
happen. I love Waddle too, but I don't.
You're looking at Waddle because he's injured, but it wasn't that kind of injury. It's not one that's going to slow him down. It's not one.
Part of the equation on what positions they're going to go for is who they get in free agency, and actually the market for wide receivers is a little stronger in free agency than some other positions. So, if they grab one of the blue chippers, then suddenly they probably won't take a wide receiver in the first round.
People have forgotten about Jamar Chase. I mean, because he was.
Isn't that amazing? He's like
the guy was phenomenal.
The teams haven't forgotten about him though.
Oh yeah, that guy is. It's now DeVonta Smith might be a better all-around person from what I hear. But people should really try to review what Jamar Chase does with his body. It's really amazing the way he contours it and torques it. And I would love if the Jets trade back, like I said before, to get one of those receivers and either the offensive lineman from Northwestern or I believe Virginia Tech, one of those guys, and some more offensive linemen like in the second round too, and they'll have a boatload of second round picks.
Wyatt Davis could be a late first rounder. I like Creed Humphrey, the center guard from Oklahoma. Really nice player. Yeah, I think he's early second. Maybe they grab him. I'd be very happy with that.
What was the injury, Ray, on Wyatt Davis? Was it anything?
I never heard him say anything like I don't hear him having any surgeries or anything.
Yeah, I got to tell you, if the Jets do trade the second pick back and they stick with Darnold and they get more picks, this is going to be the most fun draft probably, since 2000 and maybe even including 2000.
Yeah,
you're right. All right, we're going to have to close it out for Jets Rewind. It's been Ralph Schrager, Ray Clifford, and Marty Shupak. You'll join us the next time. Until next time, thank you all.